Hello folks, Reverend Crystal Cox here, and this is part 2 of the 128 Hertz tuning fork discussion. My video shut off, so I will just do a few pointers from the previous video. And in this one I actually have my 128. So the highlights that are so exciting with the 128 is that it assists you to release fluid. I recommend you listening to that last one. And also, what is it? NEHCacademy.com. Not my peeps, not my site. Really good information. So the 128 tuning fork can assist you to release fluid on your brain. Fluid that affects your cognitive abilities, your behavior. Again, I said a lot of this in the other video, but I just think it's just so interesting. So we have predictive patterning. We have certain coding that we do. Okay, so we're predicting how things are going to happen. And if they don't happen the way that our brain predicts them to happen, then it triggers our anxiety and post-traumatic stress. So our senses are seeing, oh yes, it's happening this way, but our post-traumatic stress, our trauma, our triggers are saying something else. And so this builds up fluid, okay? Prescription drugs, stress, trauma, there's a lot of things that build up fluid. So like layers of paper, there's layers in your brain and your skin up here. It's crazy, right? That holds fluid and plasma. And your head gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Also in the last video, I discussed that I'd gained quite a bit of weight in 2016, and my head was bigger. I didn't really realize it, and I guess I thought, well, it's just, my weight. My cheeks are getting, I feel I'm just gaining weight. But my head was actually expanding. We have a whole bunch of bones that kind of move around, and it allows for more and more and more and more and more and more fluid. We get brain fog, so we can't think clearly. It affects eventually your cognitive skills, your ability to think, your ability to rationalize, your ability to stay in one timeline, not be like glitching in and out. And it's a plasma liquid buildup. Okay. And so using the 128 tuning fork, you can drain that off, which is shocking. Now, my head size changed with dry fasting. So a few years back, I got into dry fasting led by Spirit. I'd never really even heard of it, didn't know it was a thing. And so my body apparently used this plasma, this liquid, as food and as water. And so I drained this off unknowingly through dry fasting, which I noticed later through photos. I didn't really know it was a thing. I had met people that had needed kidney transplants that for years, and their head was just bigger and bigger. Once they got a kidney transplant, their head kind of went back down to normal. I thought your head size is your head size, right? Like a rock. Like I'm looking for crystals here or whatever. Like, it's a set size. It doesn't expand, right? But I knew that the skull has all these things, but it has so many different sutures that it can expand so far, is massive. You just think that's the size of someone's head, but it's not. It's fluid buildup. Okay, so this fluid buildup causes all these different mental things. And again, I'm going to talk some more about that. I'm just kind of recapping the last video. But it also causes, a sign of it is male balding and female balding. Women kind of bald in here, and then they'll have maybe just spots. Men, they have the big, okay, so you do the crown. Okay, so you hit it on your puck, and you do the crown, and you're actually releasing fluids. Okay, now, these spots drain your sinuses. This drains your lymphs, where you get these little jowls and stuff. That's all fluid backup. Where you get the double chins, that's all fluid backup, and you bring it all down. And you do this spot here often, right in here. That is to release the lymph glands. Then, of course, you have lymphs, in your armpits and in other areas. But in order to be able to have a functioning life where you're not constantly stressed all the time, this fluid needs to be released. I had no idea. Okay. Now, in my case, it may, I didn't really throw up. So it came out in, drainage here. It came out in a lot of spitting up with white plaque, and it came out, through regular bathroom functions. I've known some people that their ears, it drained out their ears, right? Which is just amazing, right? That the body's releasing. So why doesn't the body naturally just release it? Fight or flight, post-traumatic stress, trauma, predictive patterning, predictive coding. You actually need help to get off of that line. Like you hold on to an electricity line, you can't let go yourself. Someone needs to kind of knock you off of it. So what this does is it changes the frequency, changes the rhythm, so that the no longer is like the blood-brain barrier or whatever, the layers holding that plasma in because it's ready, it's afraid, trauma, stress, anxiety makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. Because you've interrupted that thought, you've interrupted that frequency, your body can reset to its natural state, and then the fluids flow out. And then you can start to think. It might change things in your life because you're getting back to yourself. You've released so much. It's a little bit like I've had people, like the first healings I do on people, even long distance, before they even have a tuning fork themselves or have done it in person, they get like flu-like symptoms. They start to draining. Some people throw up. People get diarrhea. They're releasing a bunch. And that first initial release is that first fluid backup. Things going on around me. So I just think that's fascinating. Okay, so you got your crown spots, to release these fluids. And if you have a headache, then you would just, you'd hit it and then you'd go on the different spots where the actual head hurts, right? And so you'll start to, I didn't realize, you'd see these pronounced things like in patients or whatever, like that's actually fluid backup. I thought it was the shape of the head, right? And again, you want to do this spot here often to release the lymph glands. Okay. Oh, and also you hold it here or you hold it like this. You don't want to touch these or it'll be done. Okay. So let's see where we left off. And I just think it's so interesting. Also research fascia, F-A-S-C-I-A. And even you can search it with the NEHC Academy stuff. Lots of good information on there. And so this plasma buildup in the layers of your skin and your head affects your pain body, affects so much, okay? Bags of fluid buildup. And the weighted 128 tuning fork, again, with no ball on the end, right? If you have a ball or anything, you want to take it off for this particular project. Okay, so body pain is related to fluid buildup, which, yeah, inflammation, but this is a whole other level of inflammation. This is inflammation that's not just puffy and like air inflammation. It's actually fluid buildup, which, makes you kind of bloated and makes you kind of, but the brain fog, the inability to think clearly, the not remembering things you said, not remembering things you did, not even remembering how you felt about something, because you really are disoriented because that predictive coding of the brain is messed with. Okay, so which also is related to trauma, PTS, and all of your programs. So you create habitual neural pathways through stress, through trauma, through your programs, through, childhood traumas can make some sort of a false predictive coding. So you see, like, say, for example, this man, and he looks a certain way and he does some bad stuff to you. Your brain would remember that. The coding that's in this fluid that's trapped remembers that and is fight or flight and is ready. So is always maybe looking for this man or this situation, maybe applying it to other men or other women or other situations. That needs to be removed and reprogrammed, and you can do that with this frequency adjustment because it disrupts the wrong flow and it takes you back to your normal, regular, natural state, resets, and you drain off all of that old stuff. It is quite shocking. So it's plasma draining off of the layers of skin and other, human things and stuff like this. Yeah. Okay, so, right, some of the habitual patterns may have benefited you, but it doesn't matter whether it benefited you or not, okay? It's like, I just flashed on like a camera's resetting. You reset to factory setting. You're kind of resetting to factory settings of your body, how you're meant to think. So now, after you drain all that fluid and after you go through all the different healing reactions and cleansings, which could be mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, whatever, then you're back to yourself. So you can think for yourself, you can act for yourself. You're not constantly navigating through your life on fear, trauma, post-traumatic stress, from predictive coding from past neural pathways. Okay, so prevalent thoughts. Prevalent thought, so something you think about all the time, creates this, this is not my stick of talking stick, prevalent thoughts. Okay, so repetitive thoughts create this plasma backup too. Somebody's going to get me. Something's going to happen. I'm afraid. Plasma, which also is why my first year living in a car, I had to go pee every 3 or 4 hours. And I thought, it's just the point I was at in my life. I thought this, I thought that. But now I know that it was because I was afraid. I was being all tough, but really I was afraid. I didn't know how to live in a car. I didn't know I was safe. I didn't know if people would, I didn't know. And it was constant post-traumatic stress. Who's going to move you? Where are you allowed to park? What are you allowed to do? And then, being cold and being afraid. And I'm going to tear up here. It made me pee a lot. So it's fear, but that fear is irrational. And so it's building up fluid and building up plasma in layers of my body that I released later. And because my body couldn't handle it, I peed a lot, right? So as I got more and more comfortable with it, that changed. I didn't go to the bathroom as often, and I didn't realize that it was related until later. So someone else is going to say on that, but I forgot. Okay, so prevalent thoughts, your ancestry, your DNA, childhood traumas, childhood abuse. The tuning forks will reset all of that. So you've been severely abused, and so you deal with your environment and your mother and your father and your siblings and people you meet that might match their energy in a certain way because of what happened to you then. And that's held in predictive coding in the plasma fluid that's in your brain, in lining after lining after lining, that makes your head bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you release that fluid and you look back at your pictures and see that your head shrank, and you're actually getting clearer and clearer in your life about what you want, who you are, what you want to do. And it's fascinating. Okay, 128 tuning fork all over your head, but, especially the crown. Okay. Okay, so, yeah, so it's a reset. So instead of anticipating events, you will see events. Oh, this is happening. And the fear thing that I was talking about earlier with going to the bathroom a lot, I had some things come up where I was in danger. Okay. So, like a car might have backed into me, or like coming at me, or some guys at my window, there are some physical, real threats to my life. I wasn't afraid. I didn't flip out. I didn't stress out. It didn't bother me one bit. My heart didn't be like, somebody's going to get me or something. Nothing. It happened and I dealt with it. Get out of here. And I drove away or whatever. And another thing, I'm like, the car didn't hit it. It was like inches away. And I just got in position. I got ready. So I handled it. Okay. When people threatened me or things come at me to threaten, that was real fear. That's something you might be really afraid of. Ooh, you handle it. You'd be like, what? Or you hit them back, or you run, you take action. Okay, that's the true fight or flight. Or you run, you make that decision. But you can't make the decision on fight or flight if you're not centered in your body, if you're not thinking clearly, if you're going on predictive stuff. So I would find that my irrational fear, so it's post-traumatic stress, so you're afraid of things that aren't there because of things that happen in your childhood or in other lifetimes or whatever, or in your DNA or an ancestry line. Your predictive patterning and coding in this plasma thought these bad things were going to happen because they seen markers in the environment and they went, oh my God, this means something. That guy's scary. You're living in a car. That's scary. This is scary. That is scary. Be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. And so this plasma held that coding. Okay, and this releases that coding. So then you can be more rational. Okay, so if there's something to be afraid of, you're going to take action. Okay, if somebody's threatening your kids or threatening your home or threatening your life a certain way, if there's certain things happening certain ways, you will deal with it. I guarantee it. You don't think you will. You think, I can't, I'm scared, and what if? And that's what causes the fluid backup, because it's not really happening. And it comes from past neural patterning, predictive coding. Okay, anticipating events. Okay, and it's conflicting, it's at odds. So anticipating events, predictive coding is at odds with what you're sensing in your actual reality. And this causes a fluid buildup in your head and other places in your body. But your head's so important because it then affects your thinking clearly and makes you more and more stressed because you're expecting it more and more. Okay. Motor skills, speech issues, also fluid backup, because it can't predict what's going to happen next, and so it does causes severe anxiety. Also, another good thing with the tuning forks, all of them, is, so you got the 1, 2, 8, is to know at least some of your acupressure points. So the kidney point, K7 or whatever on your foot, spleen on your arm, I think it's like S7. You just look up different acupuncture points. I never really liked acupuncture, but acupressure. But reflexology, acupressure, they're the same points that coordinate with the different organs. Okay, so back to the 1, 2, 8 and the brain stuff. I so excited about that because it's just helping so many people. It doesn't seem like help at first because it might make your life a little bit crazy feeling. It might make you feel out of control. You might have weird health symptoms, but it's really clearing out old stuff, and you can definitely rest assured that it's definitely going to reset you to your real self without all that bullshit. So what the brain thinks is happening is at odds with what your senses are telling you is happening. So you can't predict people's next step, words, you can't predict events. And because you can't predict it, you don't feel safe and you feel scared. And this is childhood trauma stuff. And so it causes severe anxiety. So the 128 on the top of the head releases this fluid buildup. And you want to do it often, use your intuition. Okay, and if you're using an unweighted tuning fork, then the energy comes out of the bottom, so you want to point it, down like that. Okay, so the brain tries to map out the body at all times. The brain is looking at where the body is at all times. Okay, and so, let me see if I need these. So if it can't predict what the body's going to do, it causes disruption. So this fluid buildup, the thought process, your cognitive memory. So if you're glitching in and out of things like, I didn't say that, or I had this, or I that, you 100% believe it because that's true to you. But really, it's kind of an illusion, like the false fear. So it affects your cognitive memory, your behavior, your emotions. That's all based on predictive coding from trauma, which is otherwise known as post-traumatic stress. Okay, so the brain tricks you to predict and anticipate something that's not going to happen, and the fight or flight builds up fluid. I know, right? And as I talk about the fluid, I see this big, bulbous thing here, anyway. Okay, so, so also the old programs, traumas, the 128 resets all of this. Okay, so, right, severe trauma as a child, and I've had this where I need to predict what's happening. So if I can't, and I'm fairly smart, and I have a photographic memory and I'm psychic, I'm very intuitive. So I can predict what people are going to do next. Like I'm like, okay. So when they do something that I don't predict, in past, and I've healed this a lot, and I think the tuning forks have helped a lot, dry fasting, different things, I would get very distressed if their next step, because they got free will, was different than I predicted it. It would literally make me shake and stress out and nausea. And so that comes from childhood. And in my example, probably because I'd be going along, I never know when my mom's going to flip out. I never know when she's going to throw a fit. I never know when she's going to throw something against the wall and break it. I never know when she's going to throw a knife at a picture, at a cat and hit a picture, or just break something because she's angry, and then I got to pick it up and I make her okay. Okay, and I never know when this is going to happen, so I'm always ready. So one particular time it might have been, okay, so an ashtray dropped, and then all hell broke loose. Or another time maybe there was we had a bunch of tomatoes on the table and we were getting ready to do salsa. Okay, so then these might build a predictive patterning that's always going to happen. So when there's tomatoes on the table, I'm going to be stressed out. When the ashtray falls, I know everything else is going to break. Or if there's a cat that runs through the house, I know that my mom's going to throw a fit, right? So this is a predictive patterning of what I expect to happen because of my trauma as a child. And this releases that predictive patterning. And it may not be comfortable, and it may jolt your life, and it may cause mental breaks. It may cause flu symptoms, may cause sickness and vomiting and diarrhea and all kinds of things. But be assured that this is restoring you to your whole before prescription drugs, before antidepressants, before post-traumatic stress, what the body's naturally supposed to do. Before all of that, your head size will go down, you will drain off fluid, and you will feel more and more like you as the months go on. At first, it might be uncomfortable in many ways in your life, but at the end of it, you get your life back. 128. Okay, so anxiety, stress, PTS, okay. So what is actually happening? Okay, so what is actually happening isn't syncing with what your brain thinks is going to happen. Okay, so I just find that fascinating. Okay, so I'm going to read to you some more about the 128 horse. The 128 horses. Somebody fogged up my glasses. Anyway, this 128 is a fairly reasonable price too on Amazon. It's just so nice feeling. Anyway, I'll leave that at that. Okay, so they call it the Auto. I guess autos are just ones that are weighted on the ends or whatever. So the Auto 128 is used for pain management, muscle spasms, or circulation. Okay, so again, then that's fluid based, right? So we're moving the fluids. Let me see if I can make this. Okay, we're moving the fluids through the body. Which will help with muscle spasms. It will help to relax you. It'll help stimulating your nervous system because of that. Who am I kidding? It's much more comfortable. And probably, takes the pressure off your eyes. Because I found that I would have, like in the mornings, I couldn't see very good, right? And then as the day goes on, I could see better and better. Right? In different instances. And now I know that I thought it was like, people are like, it's diabetic. It's like a blood sugar. Because when you'd eat certain things, or like if I'd have coffee or whatever, it'd kind of clear, I could see better. And now I know that that's because there was a fluid buildup from overnight sleeping. And I'm like, and it could be sugar, it could be whatever the reason, but the fluid builds up. And then once the fluid drains, you actually see better. Okay, so the Auto 128 used for pain management, muscle spasms, circulation, promotes relaxation by stimulating the nervous system and the release of nitric oxide. Okay, so if you've seen my videos over the years on arginine, the miracle of arginine dissolved. I had smoker's arteries, never smoked a day in my life. Well, marijuana, of course, I've smoked, but not cigarettes. But I sat at poker tables in Montana for 18 years. And my dad smoked when I grew up. So and in Montana, you could smoke at the table right next, and I played every weekend, right? So, well, not, all the time, whatever, but so then later in life, I went to this eye doctor and he told me I had smoker's arteries. Like I had a lot of artery plaque. And I'm like, wow, dude, wow. And so I did L-arginine, 5,000 grams of L-arginine with L-citrulline. And I was selling it for Good Life for a while. That kind of fell apart. Long story. If you want to know, email me, reverendcrystalcox@gmail.com. So Good Life International. But as long as 5,000 milligrams of arginine. So that actually dissolves artery plaque. So does garlic. But the arginine dissolved the artery plaque, and I was actually getting symptoms of it, but I didn't really know that, which was some severe angina. It'd be like a lightning rod just shooting down through me. I would just be walking up a hill or whatever. You think you're having a heart attack, but it's angina, and it's angina. And it feels like a lightning bolt going through you, and it makes you sometimes scream out. And so it dissolved my artery plaque. Arginine did. And the reason it did, one of the big reasons that I talked about in my videos a lot back then, is because it increases the nitric oxide level in the body. Okay, that's also what the tuning fork does. Okay, 128. A lot of them do it, but this one, yeah. Okay. So nitric oxide is a gas in our blood vessels known to relieve pain and promote relaxation and health, and so much more. So much more. The 128 is used to help joint mobility. You can press it on any joint. And again, the reason is because it reduces inflammation, it reduces fluid and plasma buildup. Okay, in our body, just like our brain, every cell in our body has its own little brain. And so you can cure, like you might think, oh, my knee just forever is gone. No, once you start doing this stuff and you reset, you find you get miracle cures all over your body. Okay, because the body is meant to reset. It's meant to do its own thing. It knows what to do. It has innate. Okay, it's great for loosening tight muscles and balancing the autonomic nervous system. It's great for heart balance. So you place the stem of the fork on the heart chakra. Also, you can use it on the third eye, right? So again, you hit it and you just hold it on the third eye and just, do it till it stops several times or whatever. Intuition, use your intuition. And then, of course, the heart chakra. And then I like to do it out too, but we'll talk about that another time. Okay. The Auto 128 used for pain management, muscle spasms. Okay, we already said that. Nitric oxide. Okay, check out the stuff by Dr. John Ballou, and his last name spelled Beaulieu, to promote the release of nitric oxide gas. Okay, joints, nerve groups throughout the body can relieve pain from arthritis, knee pain, back pain, surgery, or a strenuous workout. When used in conjunction with the ohm tuner, the Auto 128 will create an ohm, the sound and frequency of the earth. So the ohm is 136.1, and we have the weighted ohm too. So you can use them together, and then that is, I guess there must be claiming it's the Schumann. So ohm is 136, so you just kind of minus those and you get a resonance. Anyway, the Auto 128 tuner has been shown to stimulate, nitric oxide, we know that. Important natural molecule for maintaining good health. Okay, we know that. Good to use in conjunction with 64 hertz, 256 hertz, 512 hertz. Okay, so brain waves, I have the brain tuning ones, so it's interesting. Like I have the gamma, the theta, the beta, and they work in conjunction with the fundamental one, which doesn't say what it is on it, but I think it's a 256, to create a resonance in the brain. But if releasing the fluid is the number one thing to do, I mean, the others probably do that too, but the 128 is what we're using for it. Okay, you can put next to the client's ear or anywhere on the body. The weighted tuning fork sends a physical vibration into the body and can be placed anywhere a client needs to release tension and bring balance. Okay, and he's got, good information. Electromagnetic energy flies all around us. This helps to reset any and all negative effects from that, because it resets us back to our regular. And why does it? Because it senses something different and it restores the correct frequency for you. It's weird. You'd think our body does that naturally, but maybe our bodies weren't made for the environment we're in now, because we've, human free will, we've kind of created all of this different frequency and resonance and planes and towers and all of these things that maybe our body doesn't naturally do its frequency reset, and it just needs help. Okay, that's the solar harmonic, the Pythagorean, love that one. The fifth intervals, okay, so this is like 256. Okay, the auto 128 simulates, okay, so nitric oxide over and over and over and over and over and over. So we're just going to leave that alone. Okay, joint mobility on any joint, loosening tight muscles, restoring your nervous system because of, like what we said earlier, the predictive coding that's in your nervous system by the fluid. Great for balancing your heart chakra, yep. It says don't use on anyone with a pacemaker. Okay, it says research suggests to use the 128 hertz fork only twice on any one point, or you can overstimulate the nitric oxide. Okay, pain management. Okay, we got all that. All right, so that's the 128 tuning fork, and it's just freaking awesome. So let's do it now. Okay. I mean, I didn't really understand the fluid thing until today, actually, because I studied a lot of the different stuff on it, but it just really clicked today with some different stuff I was studying that that's what's going on. And so, really good video, like I said, by that NEHCacademy.com guy. And they have stuff on YouTube. So, again, these points, you bring it down, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down, and you want to drain right here. So, yeah. And then, of course, you can do all around your ear and all around your different spots. But, all right, so there's that. But I just found it very dramatic that my head size. And it was funny because a friend of mine, we were looking at photos. I went back to, I don't know if I was looking at a haircut or I was looking at somewhere I'd been. I was looking at something and we were sharing photos of me doing something, figuring something out, whatever. And it was very notable, the change in the size of my head. And I'm like, what? So me losing weight made my head thing go down. And, yes, we've heard the term meathead, fathead, whatever. But really, if you think about it, there's not much here like to gain weight. So you're gaining fat in your brain? I guess so, but it's a fluid buildup. And I really just didn't know that. So there's that story. ReverendCrystalCox@gmail.com if you want to visit about tuning forks, or if you want to donate to our church, my PayPal is bbgoddesschurch@gmail.com. Goddess bless you all. I love you, and, happy tuning. Well, that was a little bit lame. Okay, happy tuning, happy tuning. Well, that went a little too far. All right, bye for now.